Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. And for anyone listening, we recorded a fight plan that'll go up, I believe, Wednesday of this week, either Wednesday or Thursday. Teddy and I got in the ring down at the Trinity Boxing Club in Lower Manhattan and did a whole preview, what to look for from each guy, what each guy needs to do to win the fight. And so, Teddy, tell me what you're expecting there. And for the people at MyBookie, and if you're inclined to make a wager, please go to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code ATLAS for a 50% credit on your first deposit up to $1,000. Deposit $2,000, they'll give you an extra $1,000 to play with. mybookie.ag. Use the promo code ATLAS. Today, I want to go over what to look for from each fighter, and then we'll get to the line. But the line, just so we have it here for the people at MyBookie, the line on this fight currently is Gervonta Davis is minus 270, Ryan Garcia plus 188, and the over-under 7.5 rounds, minus 120 for the under, minus 114 for the over 7.5. So pretty much even money on the over-under 7.5 rounds. We'll get to the picks at the end. But Teddy, what are you looking for in this fight?
I'm just curious, Ken, has there been any movement in that line? Like when it first came out, you know,
it looks like the line on Davis hasn't really moved. He's been at minus 270. Minus 270. Ryan Garcia at one point was as much as a plus 205. He's now at plus 188. So maybe a little bit of money coming in on Ryan Garcia, but Tank as the favorite hasn't moved much at all.
Listen, he belongs to favorite. He's fought the better guy. Here's my breakdown. Davis belongs to favorite. He's been in with the better competition. He's more experienced, a little older, more mature in those kind of ways in a ring, right? Ring maturity. Been in, as I said, with the better caliber. Been on this stage more, you know, on the real big stage more. If the negative for me, if there's a negative on the side of Garcia, maybe it's 1 or 2 fights too early. Maybe. I'm not saying it is. They know better than I do. They're the ones around the fight, and his trainer's supposed to know better, and I'm sure he does. But if there was maybe a little more seasoning, sort of like, you know, before you put the steak on the grill, a little more seasoning, and it would have been perfect. How many times you've been in that situation, right? You've been there where you have a barbecue, and they say, and you ask your wife because you know she's going to be honest with you, brutally honest, and sometimes you wish she wouldn't be, but she is. And how was it, hon? I could have used a little more I should have waited a little longer before I put it on the grill. So maybe if there was something I was nervous about on that side, should he have had 1 or 2 more fights? He being the younger Garcia, he's only 24 years old. Should he have had a little more seasoning to handle this moment? We're going to find out. But here's the keys. There's so many intangibles, so many X factors that I don't think anyone else is going to point out. One of them, the obvious is the obvious. One guy's got to fight long, one guy's got to fight short. One guy's got to control the outside, one guy wants to control the inside. Geometry, you know, geography. The geography of the ring, again, is so important. So important. Can Davis get close, one way or the other, by enticing the younger Garcia to give up some of his reach and height advantage, or by just doing it the old-fashioned way and going to get him? You know, work your way in. And can Garcia control the geography he needs, own the outside, and make Tank Davis, the shorter man, pay for every inch of real estate that he tries to gain? I think you don't need to hear from Teddy Atlas to probably understand that. Now, maybe I could break down how you do it a little better, but that is really the basic fight idea of how the fight should pan out on both sides that you want on either camp that you're in. You want an inside or you want an outside fight. But here's the other things. 75% of this game is mental. People keep forgetting that. It comes down to that confidence, being calm in an uncalm environment, being able to overcome BIM, to find a way when things go bad, being able to find belief in yourself and have belief in yourself when nobody else does in a very dire situation, being able to go into a dark room and find light, being able to open up the door to a room that you never knew that you had in your house. Kind of like Adesanya, the great Adesanya did against Pereira, I believe. He opened up a new room in his mansion of his house, his mind, his body, and where he hadn't explored that room before. I think Garcia's going to have to do some of that. And I think a trainer has to help him do that. There has to be that component, that mental component to it, understanding. A trainer has to be able to do more than just help you physically and technically. They have to help you in those realms. A little bit. Unless you're a guy that, unless you're Sugar Ray Leonard, you had 300 amateur fights, win the gold medal, beating the greatest fighters in the world, the Cuban. Maybe it's a little different. But even there, you have to get it somewhere. You have to get it somehow. That help. Those areas. So, one interesting point towards that, Garcia asked for this fight. Davis didn't ask for it. Garcia, the underdog, the younger guy, the guy who might need more fights, asked for it. Right away, that could be a good thing. He believes he's going to beat this guy. It could also be the other thing. Be careful you don't get what you asked for. I get it. I'm going to lay it all out. But staying with the first part, he believes he can win it. That's a good thing. That's a great thing. But is he doing it for the right reasons? Is he being pushed in his mind to ask for the fight purely because he believes that he will win, which I'm sure that's part of it. It has to be, better be. But is part of it, and nobody's going to touch on this, but is part of it brought about by the echoes he hears, the noise he hears outside. Oh, he's not tough enough. He's a pretty boy. He's not a fighter. He got dropped by Campbell. He's afraid. He's this. All that stupid stuff, the noise. But people hear that noise. They hear it. They're not in a soundproof environment. They hear it. Don't think they don't. Especially a kid like Ryan Garcia, who's on social media. He's got 9 million followers. He hears it. He's more inclined to hear it than most people. And that's part of the noise. Oh, he's a social media darling. He's a pretty boy. He's this, he's that. Yeah, they said the same thing about his promoter, who I know has problems, but as a fighter, he was damn good, Oscar De La Hoya. They said the same thing about De La Hoya. Oh, he's a pretty boy. He's a teeny bopper. The teeny boppers like him. He's all that stuff. And they did. He's good looking. All that stuff was true, just like Ryan Garcia. Girls like him. But De La Hoya was a fighter. And when his moment, and he wanted the best fights. He asked for the best fights. He got them earlier than most of these guys do, where they're not asking for them as early as De La Hoya was getting them. And he should get them. I always believed these guys that win gold medals in the Olympics, that have all those fights, they should fight better fighters sooner. They're not helping themselves by all this cannon fodder, by all this raw meat that's being fed, like you're feeding somebody a lion in a zoo. At some point, it doesn't help them anymore. But is Garcia doing it purely because of, I believe, this is my destiny, this is my fate, which maybe he is. I believe in those things. Is he being drawn by that? That I want to prove this, I'm going to show everybody? Or as part of it, as I said, where he's being pushed a little bit by the noise, by trying to prove, I'm going to prove that I'm a tough guy. I'm going to prove I'm this. You don't have to prove nothing. You already proved it. You're a fighter. You're tougher than 90% of the people in the world will ever be. I know that, Ryan. I know that. So, which one is it for? That's the X factor. Because if it's for the latter, it could be a problem. If it's for just to quell those voices, silence those voices, prove a point that I am tough, that could be for the wrong reason. Could be. It could. He better not go in there like Sugar Ray Leonard. Everyone knows he's one of my favorite fighters. Sugar Ray Leonard, he can fight any era, and not too many fighters could. But because he was not only great as far as skill set and technique and everything else, but he was a junkyard dog. He was a nasty son of a gun in that ring, like Marvin Hagler. And he was going to get you. You weren't going to get him. He was going to find a way. When he was at his prime, just like he did with the Cuban in the gold medal match. That Cuban was a killer. in the Olympics, and he went out there and he destroyed him. He was a special guy, but he made a mistake in the first fight. With Duran, when he fought, and he wanted that fight, and he was right, but a part of him also wanted to prove that he wasn't just a guy that got a 7-Up commercial, that had a pretty smile, that was a pretty boy, was a darling. Leonard wanted to show that he was also a fighter, that he was more than that, and he was. We already knew. We should have known that, but he heard the noise that, he ain't Duran. He ain't Duran's a monster. Duran's a, pit bull. Duran's a nasty guy coming out of the streets of Panama. And he was. And Leonard's just faster, and he's this, and he's a golden boy, and he's the spoiled brat, and he got money coming out right away. He was making money, all those things. He earned the right to do that from what he did in the amateurs, all the years that he toiled to get there. Just like Ryan, to get to where he's gotten to. But then it influenced him to fight the wrong fight. He fought Duran's fight. It was a great fight. And it turned out okay. He lost the fight, but he got more fans from that loss than he ever had before, because they now respect him in ways of more than just being a fast fighter, a polished fighter, a talented fighter. Now they believed he was a fighter. Now he was one of theirs. Now he earned the right for them to kind of cheer for him, to say, yeah, you're more than just a pretty boy. Yeah. You won those fans over with the way you fought Duran, but you lost the fight because you fought in the wrong geography. You fought in the wrong quarters, in the wrong space. You fought Duran's fight. Ryan better not get caught up in that, because the difference between Sugar Ray Leonard and him, and Sugar Ray Leonard and Duran, and Ryan Garcia and Tank Davis, one shot, one mistake because you're fighting the wrong kind of fight, and you might not get another chance at it. That's the problem. So he's gotta be mentally right. He's got to go in there. And look, Davis could have distractions too, with all the personal stuff that goes on in his life, all that stuff. I mean, God almighty, he's got enough distractions that could be going to court. He's got a court case hanging over his head. All of that stuff, that could be there too. But at the end of the day, those are all X factors floating over this fight. It will come down to, as always, who can put their hands on the other guy more. But a little different here, because Davis don't have to do it more. He only has to do it maybe once or twice, clean. And I think the danger point for Garcia, I'm not going to go too deep because you're going to get that in the fight plan. You go see the fight plan when it comes out, you're going to get all that. But part of the danger point is Garcia better not step out from too close, because Tank could catch you coming, he could catch you going.
Well, given the line, Teddy, what do you think, based on the line, a minus 270 or a plus one, call it 190?
Well, first of all, I want to finish one thing. I think Davis, people think, the big left hand, the power, he better use his jab. We all thinking jab with Garcia to win. You better think that same thing with Davis. He needs his jab so he doesn't get dominated by the jab of the longer, taller guy. So he needs his jab. He will need that jab. That'd be very important. The jab would be important on both. And one other X factor that I want to touch, and then I'll go to your stuff. Weight, size. It's at a catch weight 136, now 135 the title weight. But I don't know if it hurts Garcia, because he's gotten so big in the last 2 years. He has grown. I know he's still filling out. He's a younger guy. He's got a bigger skeleton. He's got a bigger frame than Davis, so it makes sense. But he's gotten so big. If he has trouble making that weight, and he has to compromise himself making that weight, not only does he have to make the weight, but the next morning they have to weigh in again, and they have a rehydration clause in there that Tank Davis very smartly, his people put in there, where he can't be more than 10 pounds over 136. So he's got to come in no more than 146 the next morning. So he might not be able to, if he's killing himself to make 130, if he's doing, he's a big guy. So I would say there's a chance it's going to be hard to make 136. And he's talked about that before. So if he's really having trouble making 136 and then he wants to rehydrate the night before, which is when you have to do it and get all your nutriment back, right, Ken? You know that about with the race, where you got to carb up before big 26-mile marathon race with the best in the world. Well, he's going to be looking to do the same thing. If you're restricting his ability to do that by putting a 10-pound rehydration clause on the next day, you could have a problem.
For sure.
You could have a problem there. So the weight here could be another X factor. Go ahead. I laid it all out.
Yep. So I wanted to ask you with the line, given the situation with the line, minus 280 on Davis, plus 190 on Ryan. What do you think?
I like Ryan. Look, I don't hide what I say. I don't know Davis the way I know Ryan. Ryan's been on the show a few times. He's called me a few times. So I like him. I just like him as a person. I think he's still growing. I think he's still finding himself, to be honest. I think he cares about the right things. Again, I'm not knocking Davis. I just don't know him as well. But I see some of the things out there that I'm not in love with. But again, I'm not saying I know behind the curtain more. I'm not saying that. But it's about in the ring, ability for one guy to put his hands on the other guy in the ring and to get to the other guy in a boxing match. That's what it's about. And I'm rooting for Garcia. Again, some people say, "Oh, Teddy, that's not fair." I'm being honest, but it's not in any way fogging up my thoughts or in any way taken away from my analysis of what I just laid out there. That's cold. That's cold. That's never emotional. So, and I'm not about to start now. So, but I am rooting for Garcia. But at the end of the day, I would make myself, Teddy Atlas, would make Davis, for all the reasons I just said, the favorite. Where he would be the favorite. I would probably take what is. I'm not laying that
over under 7.5.
Even though I know why he's the favorite, I'm not laying that. That I'll say. Nothing personal, nothing. That's professional. I'm not laying that much because if Garcia is right, that he took this fight for the right reasons, that he sees something and he believes there's no way I'm leaving that ring without winning. No way I'm leaving that ring without winning. If he really is, really, truly committed to that frame of thinking, then no way I'm laying that kind of wood that he can't get it done. So I'm not doing that. The under-over.
7.5 rounds, basically even money. Slight favorite towards the under, I believe. 1 second. Yeah, the under is minus 120, over 7.5 minus 115. Roughly even money. 7.5 rounds.
Yeah, even money. All right, basically the same. I'd probably put something on the under because I just think on both sides that something in this fight, a mistake could be made early. Hey, a mistake could be made late. I understand that. But being Ryan's, a little bit, obviously, maybe a lot less seasoned in certain areas, there could be a possibility on either side of a mistake, especially on his side, being made early. So maybe something on the maybe something, nothing big, nothing huge. This is a fight that I just would rather watch, than necessarily have any kind of big wager on it. Not that you should ever have a big wager. Only what you can handle, only what you can afford. That doesn't take away from you or your family. But I might be inclined to throw a peanut. Is that what they say? Bill Krakenberger, one of the great handicappers out there, a friend of mine. That's the term he uses, in his world. All right, I'd throw a peanut maybe on Ryan, being that you could get back, 180, 185? What is it that you could get back?
You can get back plus 190 roughly.
Oh, all right. Maybe I'd throw a peanut. I'm not going crazy because I think I laid it all out there for everybody.
Yeah,
why
no,
I
I
wouldn't
agree.
go crazy.
Yep, super thorough. For the people who are inclined to bet, please go to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code ATLAS.